quick reminder. And what do? Is we usher you into the day with so much information that you need to know that is happening both locally and internationally, but also very important, we brighten up your mornings. No matter how dark your night was, with a little bit of jokes, humor, so that we set the pace. That's the best word I can use. So why not make it a date with us tomorrow, so that no matter how dark your night could have been or the previous day, we bring light at the end of the tunnel just as you start your day. Robert Chirabonyo, I'm here again, and I have a guest with whom we are going to be discussing a very pertinent issue, which is all about tourism, taking tourism to the coast of Kenya, and that is Mombasa. Now, we are going to be discussing the first Uganda festival at the Kenya coast. Join me, welcome my guest, Ambassador Paul Mukumbya, who happens to be Uganda's Consul General at Mombasa Consulate. And this is running on the theme, building partnerships to promote tourism. Your Excellency, you're most welcome to our studios this morning.
Thank you, Robert, and thank you for hosting me. It's a pleasure to be back here.
How is Mombasa? Mombasa
is hot, either hot or very hot, but that doesn't stop us from going on with our usual business, especially us as the Uganda Consulate in Mombasa, representing Uganda's interests at the Kenya coast, especially our strategic interests at the port of Mombasa and other areas which all Uganda missions do. So it's hot, it's very hot, but life continues. Yeah.
I long for holiday at the coast. And I must say, I hope I don't miss. If I have free time, then Ambassador, sure, I must be one of the Ugandans to be present at the first Uganda festival at the Kenya coast. Many Ugandans go there for holidays.
True.
They enjoy the coast there. They go to Mombasa, holidays, honeymoon, and if you've not yet been there, just like me, well, it's something you should think of doing. Now, Ambassador, briefly give us the genesis of this Uganda festival at the Kenya coast.
Thank you, Robert. Since 2022, the Uganda Consulate in Mombasa partnered with key tourism stakeholders in Uganda and at the Kenya coast to promote a partnership, a cooperation. And this partnership is based on the fact that we have different tourism products. In Uganda, we have products like mountain gorillas, chimpanzees, the adventure tourism on River Nile, religious and cultural tourism, the Kampala City Tour, the Machon Falls. And then at the Kenya coast, we have the beaches, very beautiful beaches. We have the historical sites like Fort Jesus and the Vasco da Gama Pillar in Malindi. Fort Jesus is in Mombasa. But when you look at all the products that I've mentioned for Uganda and the Kenya coast, you realize that they are not the same. So we thought that why don't we partner together and promote complementarity between Uganda and the Kenya coast, so that looking at first the Kenyans, by the way, Kenya is our #1 source market for tourists or visitors to Uganda. And when I saw the figures released by the Minister of Tourism earlier this week, I think it was, or last week, Kenya continues to be our #1 source market. And for Kenya, Uganda is the #2 source market after the US. So that's already a good foundation on which to build a partnership. So we encourage more Kenyans to visit Uganda. At the same time, we're encouraging Ugandans to visit Kenya, and particularly the Kenya coast. So that's the first foundation on which we built, or we are building the partnership. The second foundation is the fact that so many tourists come to the Kenya coast. When you look at the numbers, they bring in charters almost every day, chartered planes bringing in tourists from Europe, from America, from Asia, and even from within Africa. And then we also in Uganda have many tourists that come, visitors that come to Uganda. So the second point on which we built the partnership is that those so many tourists that come to the Kenya coast can, on the same itinerary, come to Uganda and experience something completely different. After experiencing the beaches and all these other products at the Kenya coast, they can extend their tours to Uganda and experience the different products that are not at the Kenya coast. And vice versa, those that come to Uganda can also go to the Kenya coast on the same itinerary. So this is the second point on which we have built the partnership. So in 2022, we had the first Uganda-Kenya Coast Tourism Conference, which was hosted in Mombasa at Pride Inn. Last year, we had the second conference, which was hosted in Diani, at Diani Reef Beach Resort. And this year, in November, we have the third Uganda-Kenya Coast Tourism Conference, which is going to be hosted by Uganda here in Kampala. So you can see that the partnership is growing. The first conference, we had about 250 delegates, both from Uganda and Kenya. Last year, we had over 500. Actually, for the Uganda delegation, we had to upgrade. Normally, the plane that goes to Mombasa by Uganda Airlines is a Bombardier, whose capacity is about 76 passengers. But last year, because of the demand, we had to request Uganda Airlines to deploy an Airbus. So Uganda alone had a delegation of over 200 delegates, and Kenya an even bigger number. So that's how we came up with over 500 delegates that attended that conference. And we are still looking at even a bigger number that will come to Uganda in November this year to attend the third conference. So that is the foundation on which we have built this partnership. But then we have, as I said earlier, noted that Kenya is our #1 source market. And we must continue marketing Uganda at the Kenya coast. We must continue marketing ourselves, selling our products there, bringing a bigger number of Kenyans about. By the way, what we realized during this partnership is that many Kenyans don't know about what we have in Uganda. Much the same way as many Ugandans, they know about some of the beaches at the Kenya coast. Actually, many of them, when they are going to the Kenya coast, they say they are going to Mombasa, even when they are not going to Mombasa, even when they are going to Diani. So we need to create more awareness about the products we have so that more and more Kenyans visit Uganda. So that's how we came up with the idea of the Uganda Festival, which is happening from the 17th to the 20th of this month at the Kenya coast. I'm deliberately saying Kenya coast because it is going to be in Diani, in Mombasa, and Malindi. And these are 3 different counties of the Kenya coast.
Now, when you talk about the Kenya coast and this festival, what exactly? Because for a conference, Ambassador, it's clear. Someone knows you're coming to a conference, you're going to have deliberations, presentations, and all that. Then later, maybe at the end, you're going to have a communique or recommendations and all that. Now, create a picture for us of what is going to be happening from the 17th to the 20th at the Kenya coast.
The festival has 3 or so components. 1, we have culture. We are going to showcase Ugandan culture. 2, we have called it the Uganda kitchen to the Kenya coast. We are taking Luombo, we are taking Rolex, we are taking all these very popular Ugandan foods to the Kenya coast. Number 2, we are taking Ndere Troop. And you know Ndere Troop is an embodiment of Ugandan culture. Within about 2 hours that their show is, they will have taken you around the whole of Ugandan culture. They will have showcased Ugandan culture. But the other component we are also taking is golf. We are also trying to promote golf tourism. And you know, we all know that the golfers, in many cases, are people who have some reasonable disposable income. So that's why we want to encourage the golfers to also get involved in tourism, because when they travel, they don't only play golf. They stay in our hotels, they visit the tourism sites. So that's why we are also promoting, we have a golf tournament. And finally, we are also taking along the popular Ugandan comedian, who is very popular in Kenya, by the way, Annie Kansime. So that's the menu that we are taking to the Kenya coast. So we are lifting Uganda and taking it to the Kenya coast. We are taking our culture, we are taking our kitchen, our food, we are taking our other products. During the festival, we shall be showcasing these products that I talked about earlier. We shall be having interviews where we shall show, for example, about Kampala city tour, about gorilla tracking in Bwindi, about chimpanzee tracking in Kibale, about Mashon Falls, about rafting on River Nile. So we shall be having these dedicated moments where we shall be showcasing Ugandan tourism products. So we are really trying, whereas at the conferences we have had previously, we have mainly been targeting the tourism stakeholders, those that are directly involved in promotion or whose industry or business is tourism. But this time we want to reach out to a wider community of the Kenyans, especially the corporates, the corporate community, the banks, the factories, the industries, those who have some, again, disposable income, and we show them what Uganda is, and with the aim of attracting and convincing them to come and visit Uganda. So we are aiming at growing the number of Kenyan visitors to Uganda, but during the same festival there will also be other international visitors to the Kenya coast. So we are also targeting them. Whereas we go to London, in Berlin, in Durban, in South Africa to promote tourism, but this time we also want to find these tourists when they are already at the Kenya coast and showcase our products. Who knows, we might convince them. If not this time, the next time they come to the Kenya coast, they may decide to also come and visit Uganda. So we are going to be in Diani, at Diani Reef Resort on the 17th of April. And then on the 18th, we shall be at Ocean Beach in Malindi, Ocean Beach Resort. On 19th, we shall be at Vipingo Ridge. Vipingo is the only PGA, I think that is the language they call it. I'm yet to become a golfer because I don't have disposable income yet. But so Vipingo has an 18-hole golf course. I'm told it's the only PGA-rated golf course in Africa. So we shall be having a cultural performance there in the evening of 19th. And then on the 20th, we shall also, that's when the day of the golf tournament, during the day. And then in the evening of 20th, that's when we shall be crown it at Fort Jesus in Mombasa.
Very interesting program and the lineup there. Now, one would also ask themselves, are you having, because when you were mentioning, you talked of all things being organized slightly by the consulate in partnership with the Kenyan government, Acosto. But let's understand, where is the private sector into this?
Private sector?
Yes, what do I mean by the private sector? Apart from being just a speculator or a person who has attended, are we having people to exhibit? Because for the conference, you talked about huge people, huge numbers you had. I don't want to believe that all these were government delegations and government had facilitated and all that. But for this particular event, I'm here, I'm in the tourism sector, so how do I fit in?
Thank you very much. Actually, our primary partners or key partners in all these activities are the private sector. We always work very closely with the Private Sector Foundation in Uganda, headed by the CEO, Mr. Stephen Asimwe. Him individually and PSFU collectively, they are our biggest partners and allies in all this work that we do. Then we have the Confederation of Uganda Tourism Associations, previously Uganda Tourism Association, headed by Mr. Herbert Byaruhanga. Those are our key partners, the tour operators, the travel agents. So you can see that the biggest number of our stakeholders are actually the private sector. But coming back specifically to your question, during the festival, we are encouraging those that can exhibit their products to do so. We have provided, the venue is free of charge. All one will have to do is to transport themselves to the Kenya coast to find their accommodation, and then we shall provide the space for the exhibition. So any of the private sector can contact us at the Ugandan consulate, so that actually we have already reached out to them. We have posted on the various fora on which we are, of the private sector, encouraging them to also come and join the Uganda Festival and showcase those so many beautiful crafts that we have. We have another very popular product, the Uganda Waraji. It's very popular in Kenya. We have written to Uganda breweries, encouraging them to partner with us and come and do the cocktails and mocktails. And we market Uganda Waraji more, the Ugandan pineapples, which are the sweetest in the world. All these products, we encourage the private sector to come and exhibit and showcase them and find a bigger market for their products.
Well, this is a very big opportunity for our brothers and sisters in the tourism sector, but also for the country at large, because if we get to a level where almost half of the tourists that visit the Kenya coast do not end there, but also jet into this country and are able to visit what we have as Ugandans, then that will greatly add on employment, that will greatly add on our revenue. Remember, tourism is one of the sector that is doing us good when it comes to getting foreign revenue. These people come in, they spend. At the end of the day, there's so much that we can get to do our roads and services. Now, our consulate in Mombasa comes up in partnership with the Kenya government, and they say, let's organize Uganda Festival at the Kenya coast. And I find it was a well-thought idea. But let's also look at, opportunity comes to those that are prepared. It is another thing for us to have this opportunity, another thing for us to benefit from the opportunity. So how have we prepared our people? Because when you look at Kenya, in terms of the tourism sector, it's far developed, far better organized compared to coming back home. For this particular time, have there been any preparations? I just need a bit from you, Ambassador. They're in business, we are in business. We want to have the same clients continue to Uganda. Your assessment, briefly.
Thank you, Robert. It's true that the Ugandan tourism sector is at a higher and more developed level than that of Uganda. But that is another reason why we are partnering and promoting this partnership. Actually, at last year's conference, that was a topic that was discussed. And so that how do we ensure that a tourist who comes to the Kenya coast and experiences high-end, first-class service, how does the Kenyan tour operator who has brought that visitor to Kenya or to the Kenya coast, how does that operator get convinced that when I send my client to Uganda, they will get a similarly high-end and top-notch service? So this is one of the issues that we have been discussing, to have the same standards, to have similar training of the tour guides, of all the service providers that are involved in the value chain, the tourism chain. So this is something we are working on. But of course, the government of Uganda has also done a lot to develop our tourism sites, to develop the infrastructure. Last year when we came over here with a number of about 30 tour operators from the Kenya coast, from Kenya. Some of them, I went with them to Murchison Falls. And they were pleasantly surprised that from Kampala up to Murchison Falls, we are driving on first-class tarmac. And said, you people, this is unbelievable. This is something. Actually, they were saying that in some of these cases, we are even, we are better than Kenya. They couldn't believe that we could drive all this distance up to Murchison Falls on first-class tarmac. They have been to a number of our lodges and hotels. Last year when we came, in Kampala, we stayed at 4 Points. 4 Points is by all standards a very nice hotel. The service there is good. We went around. We stayed in Murchison Falls at I forget the name of the lodge, Pakuba. I think we stayed at Pakuba. We visited Zambia Lodge. We visited Twiga Lodge. All these, the Kenyan tour operators really observed that we have what it takes to host, to receive their visitors. So really, although we agree that Kenya has a more developed tourism sector, but we in Uganda, both the government and the private sector, have done quite a lot to also bring up our tourism sector, and the government continues to put in a lot of resources. I've been seeing UTB of late. They are grading our hotels to make sure that the standards, when we say 3-star, 4-star, 5-star, the service is actually to that level. So true, a lot is being done, and sooner than later, we shall all get there and be at the same standard where the partnership will be operating on equal grounds.
We'll get there at some time. It is work in progress. We are on the right track, according to my guest this morning. Now, at this point, allow me to go for a very short break. I'll be returning with the ambassador. We are still looking at promoting tourism, building partnerships to advance this sector, and it is the 17th to the 20th at the Kenya coast where we shall be having this festival. I return shortly.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
MTN Momo Pay is the easy way to pay. Dial star 165 star 3 hash or use the MTN Momo app. You don't need cash. MTN Momo Pay is safe and free.
Have you packed more with Harbour jelly and Harbour salt?
Yes, we packed.
It will protect your skin from skin rashes.
Morbid back.
It is a new improved Morbid Harbour jelly, so soft and smooth.
It is a Morbid Harbour jelly.
Tell me, kids, the scent. Any irritations? No more rashes and irritations. Movit Harbour Jelly and Harbour Soap is rich in natural herbs for a smooth and glowing skin.
Movit all day confidence.
UBC is the national public broadcaster. We educate, inform, entertain, and inspire our audiences. You can watch us on free-to-air channel 001, DSTV channel 282, GoTV channel 371, Star Times channel 201, Zuku TV channel 20, and Azam TV channel 350. Even when your subscription expires, you can still watch UBC for free on your pay TV platforms.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Welcome back from that break. You're still watching Good Morning Uganda Extra on UBC TV, and we are discussing the first Uganda festival at the Kenya coast that is going to be running from the 17th to the 20th of this very month. You shouldn't miss if you're in the tourism sector, even if I think it's also a very good opportunity for your Ugandan who wants to go to the coast, but also for the Kenyans. This is an opportunity for you because I know you're watching us. Many of you, UBC is everywhere. So you shouldn't miss to find and get to know of what we have back home in Uganda. Then later put on your shoes, get your national ID, get on the road if you don't want to use plane, and then you come to Uganda and see the beauty of the Pearl of Africa, which Winston Churchill reached this great country and said, I've been through a number of countries, but indeed, this is the Pearl of Africa. Now, Ambassador, here we are looking at more bilateral and then regional tourism. Now, why is it easier as we push for this for a Kenyan to come to Uganda? What are some of the advantages that we are saying, let's concentrate on this coast of Kenya?
Thank you very much, Robert. You know, even when the East African community broke down or collapsed several years ago before it was re-established, we in East Africa have never required visas to travel within the community. Previously, you could just get your passport or even there's a commercial travel document, and you would travel, go to the airport or go to the border and travel within the community without having to get a visa. So that made it much easier to travel within the community. But during the time when the three countries of Uganda, Kenya, and Rwanda were strongly pushing for cooperation under the Northern Corridor Integration Projects, the three countries agreed, among other things, to ease travel within those three countries. And by that, even the need to have a passport was done away with. So these days, anyone just needs their national ID, and then they can travel to Kenya and Rwanda. That's for a Ugandan. A Kenyan only needs their national ID to travel to Uganda. So already that makes it very easy. You don't have to go the person wants to travel to the UK or to the US. You take almost 3 months waiting for a visa. So for a Ugandan or a Kenyan, even if I woke up this morning or this evening and I said I'm traveling to Kenya, I would just get on to any means of transport and travel to Kenya. So that makes travel very easy. That's point number one. Point number two, you don't have to board a plane in order to travel to Kenya, or for a Kenyan to travel to Uganda, they don't have to get onto a plane. Of course, we know air transport is still expensive, very expensive actually. So no, one doesn't need to get $400-500 and buy an air ticket in order to travel to Kenya or Uganda. Just, you can travel by bus, and there are so many buses that ply this route between Uganda and Kenya. You can you can drive your private car. So that is another issue. Traveling is much cheaper between our countries. But also point number three, we don't have so many restrictions, or what we call the advisories. You know, even when we had Ebola recently in 2022, I think it was, Kenya never stopped its nationals from traveling to Uganda. So, and Ugandans were never stopped from traveling to Kenya because there was Ebola in Uganda. So this is point number 3. That's why we really need to focus on this bilateral and regional market for tourism. It addresses and does away the issue of seasonality. Seasonality and travel advisories. You know, the US, the UK, and all these European, and they travel mostly during summer. They will save for a whole year for their travel during summer. But a Ugandan will travel anytime they have the money, anytime they want to party. We get so many weddings at the Kenya coast, Ugandan weddings. And by the way, any hotel at the Kenya coast would really pray and pray hard to get a Ugandan wedding, because one Ugandan wedding can make a very big difference for business at the Kenya coast. So they are really looking out to attract Ugandan weddings at their hotels at the Kenya coast. So really, that's why we are focusing so much on these bilateral and regional markets for tourism, because they really make it easier for us to get many more visitors who don't have so many restrictions, and thereby we are able to get visitors throughout the year. But of course, that doesn't mean that we are neglecting or losing focus on those rich, also very rich international tourists. But also, it's very important that we focus on the regional market as very good source markets for visitors to Uganda.
I love the fact that with regional, chances of going wrong in case of pandemics, like you said, but also the other thing is that we are not so very much different. You have people who speak the same language almost. For a Kenyan coming to Uganda, you're going to find some people, because we are divided by borders. So it's not like you go to a country, our dear brothers and sisters in Kenya, where there is no Kiswahili, even there is no, and you don't connect so much. Now here, for a Ugandan to go to the Kenya coast, you don't find it very hard, because you know, there is so much similarity amongst the people within East Africa. So you easily feel at home. The foods, I don't know, Ambassador, I've never been at the coast, but I think I can't fail to find a posho ugali.
No, ugali is the number one food for Kenya generally.
And here also eat posho very well.
Yeah, sure.
Then also the meat, I won't miss either mutton or there could maybe be a particular, I won't get there.
What you may miss at the Kenya coast is a certain type of meat which is very popular here. But because the coast is predominantly Muslim.
We are still in Ramadan, Ambassador. Let's leave that. So that is what you would miss. Anyway, time seems to be flying, and I have to let my guest go. But before I let you go, your parting shot to the viewer.
Thank you very much, Robert. And my parting words is that although we are going to the Kenya coast, or taking Uganda to the Kenya coast, even the Ugandans, as you said earlier, even those that may not be going to exhibit, they are welcome to the festival. The Ugandan golfers, we call on you to register, to contact the Uganda Golf Union. We have come up with a very good package for the golfers to go and stay at to stay there and also play there. So it's something that we are still encouraging more and more Ugandan golfers to register and go and play at the tournament. And by the way, this golf tournament is also going to become an annual event. So when we come here in November for the 3rd conference, it will be preceded by a Uganda-Kenya Coast golf tournament. So we encourage golfers to get involved in the festival. I also urge even those Ugandans that are resident in Kenya, in Nairobi or wherever, to come to the coast and enjoy the festival. But Kenyans also, please come in. I know you all love Kansime. You have not seen Ndere so much in Kenya, but also the Rolex. So many of them talk about the Rolex, the Katogo, the Luombo. Please come and enjoy this very interesting Ugandan cuisine. So that's the first point I want to raise. But also, as I said, later in the year, we shall be having the third tourism conference, Uganda-Kenya Coast Tourism Conference, here in Kampala from 11th to 12th November. We have already started preparations. So I encourage many Ugandans, just like they did last year, to also participate in the conference this year. But also the Kenyans, you have been threatening us that you will revenge. You know, last year we caused some inflation at the Kenya coast when we took over 200 Ugandans. So Kenyans, we are waiting for you in Uganda in November, and we are ready for you. We shall, after the conference, we shall be taking all of you across the country at minimum, if any cost. You don't want to miss that opportunity to come and explore Uganda, the part of Africa, to see the mountain gorillas, whom we call our cousins, to see the chimpanzees, to enjoy the Kampala nightlife. I always tell Kenyans that Kampala is the capital city of nightlife in this region. And they need to come and benchmark here on how we do our nightlife. To take them for water rafting, to see them, all these very unique tourism products that we have here. So I'm encouraging the Kenyans to come in big numbers. We shall be ready to host as many of you that will be here during that time. So those are my parting shots. Thank you. Otherwise, thank you very much for hosting us. It's always a pleasure. UBC is our very strong partner. Whenever we have these activities, they always give us opportunity to come and talk about them and reach out to a wider Ugandan public or their viewership. So thank you, UBC, for always partnering and supporting our activities.
Well, thank you so much, Ambassador Paul Mukubya, who happens to be Uganda's ambassador to the coast of Kenya. It is going to be from the 17th to the 20th of this very month and year at the coast. Ugandans, you can't afford to miss. But also the Kenyans, you can't afford to miss, and tourists all over the world that will be at the coast at that time. Please ensure you go to this festival and see the beautiful dances we have. The beautiful people of Uganda. That is also something you forgot, Ambassador. We have very beautiful ladies that you have never seen. We have beautiful foods. Everything is beautiful. So you can't afford. That is why I really always talk about the man who arrived in Uganda and said it is the pearl of Africa. So when you see that at a festival, you'll have to travel and come to Uganda and enjoy that more. Have a lovely day. God willing, see you tomorrow. Keep it with us on UBC TV. Good morning.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.